I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is Bond. I'm Batman.
Name's Bond.
James Bond.
I'm Batman.
Bond. James Bond. I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
This is the Batman vs. James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. And this is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. It is great to be back. I hope all of you have had a great week. Me, on the other hand, if you couldn't tell by now, listening to the sound of my voice, I was slightly under the weather, a little bit of a sinus infection, actually a big one. But that's neither here nor there. But you're going to have to listen to my voice like this. Believe me, I actually am feeling better, though it might not sound like it. But it wasn't a great way to spend the weekend, but we still made the most of it. There was another James Bond marathon on, and watched Tomorrow Never Dies again. Watch The World's Not Enough again. Watch Casino Royale again. And loved every minute of every movie that I watched. And if you didn't check out the Instagram, that's Batman vs. Bond. Tweeted a picture out there, or posted a picture of my little puppy on there, and she was watching with me. And, I gotta say, she just fell asleep on top of my lap. I posted the picture on there, and you guys are loving her. Yeah, it was, like I said, it was one of those weeks, but it's every time I, realize it's like, hey, it's time to record again, I get excited because I love talking about Batman and James Bond movies. It is my life. Well, aside from my other life, it's like having a secret identity almost, especially if you're Batman and James Bond. You almost, it's sneak in here to the Batcave, do my thing while my wife's, doing whatever it is she's doing right now, and then it's back to reality. So before we get things started, I'd like to remind everyone to please subscribe to the Batman vs. James Bond show on Spreaker and iTunes, and leave a nice little review for me on there. I would very much appreciate it. Now, as I always like to mention at the beginning of every single show, or at least I've started to anyway, especially for the new listeners, and welcome, great to have you. I am not a movie critic. I am not a movie blogger for a movie website. I'm just a guy who's obsessed with Batman and James Bond. I do the cosplay. Like I said, whenever the marathon's on, I don't care. I own all the Blu-rays. I own every single Batman, not animated feature film. That's going to be changing soon, hopefully. Every actual Batman movie, all right, minus the Adam West. You got me. I own every single James Bond movie. Okay, you got me there too, because I don't own that spoof of Casino Royale, but that technically doesn't count anyway. But you get the point, though. I really have that passion. I have the love for these characters, if you couldn't tell by now. So, I always, I love doing this, like I said. So anyway, having said that, now I'm getting off my track right here. So let's get started with some news stories from the week. There's been a lot of stuff going on. Fair warning for the James Bond fans. Hang tight with me. We got a lot of Justice League Batman news to get to this week. It was very heavy, but I do have some stuff for you too. Don't worry, so hang tight. All right, Batman fans, welcome back. And if you're a James Bond fan too, even better. So, Batman fans, all right. Lots of stuff happened this week. The Justice League news, I teased it last week, and it's been teased all over the internet, something big was going to be happening. We weren't sure exactly. On this show, I predicted, okay, you know what? Maybe we'll get a picture. At most, we'll get a picture. We're not going to get a trailer. We're not going to get, any kind of, we might get maybe a photo from on set at most. It's still too early. The movie does come out in November 2017, which technically, it's a year and a half. I'll give it a year and a half. I'll just round up there. And that's not far away, all things considered, because probably filming these movies, it doesn't take a long time, but to do all the post-production, that's a lot of stuff, especially given that it is more CGI filled than, say, other past Batman movies and so forth. So, and Superman movies too, if you're a Superman fan. So, I was right and I wasn't right. So, first of all, I hate admitting when I'm wrong, but I will admit when I'm wrong. Now, I was right that there was a photo that was put out there. It happened to be the new Batmobile. Well, it's the Batmobile that we saw in Batman v Superman, but the difference is that he added, I think, some missile launchers or something. I posted it on the Instagram and Twitter. Definitely check that out. but that's only even icing on the cake. Okay, so I've teased this enough. The Justice League film plot has been, they've released this, they've released a new logo, they've released a whole bunch of stuff, interviews from Zack Snyder, Ben Affleck, Deborah Snyder, and all kinds of things. So let's start with the big thing here. In the last week or so, Warner Brothers held this set visit, and they had some, press and movie bloggers come on. They had a chance to look at the movie, and if you want to call it, not damage control, in a way, some will say that it is, just because of the mixed reviews that Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, got, and it's water over the bridge. It is what it is. So DC and Warner Brothers obviously have to get this. And like I said, if you are a huge fan of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, that's awesome. Believe me, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I will say that again. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. Go back and listen to my review. Now, they are releasing the Ultimate Cut tomorrow, which by the time you listen to this, it's already going to be out there, and I'll probably be watching it, as many times as I possibly can before I record again. But, like I said, some people will say that this is like damage control. We got to get everybody hyped about this, because everything that, Zack Snyder and crew wanted to be able to do in Batman v Superman, it wasn't quite how they had hoped it would be, or maybe the reaction that they hoped the audience would get, and the critics. So, and we'll talk about that in a minute also. So going back here, Warner Brothers ended up releasing the synopsis for Justice League, and it's a brief outline and kind of like, it's stuff that we knew and stuff that we didn't know. So let me just say it right now. Fueled by his restored faith in humanity, inspired by Superman's selfless act, Bruce Wayne enlists the help of his newfound ally, Diana Prince, to face an even greater enemy. Together, Batman and Wonder Woman work quickly to find and recruit a team of metahumans to stand against this newly awakened threat. But despite the formation of this unprecedented league of heroes, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash, it may be already too late to save the planet from an assault of catastrophic proportions. Directed by Zack Snyder, this marks the big screen debut of the Justice League, featuring an all-star lineup: Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, and Ray Fisher. Real quick, while it's on the top of my head, Henry Cavill is announced on there, yet we didn't actually hear that Superman's going to be part of this Justice League. Now, this goes into spoiler territory if you want to say it does. I mean, the movie's been out since March, and it's practically July right now, and the Ultimate Cut comes out on video this week, so, everybody, quick spoiler if you haven't seen the movie. All right, so Superman died in the movie at the very end. So what's interesting about this is that they still announced Henry Cavill, who played Clark Kent Superman, in the cast. No surprise there. No surprise at all, as a matter of fact. But I guess the question that I have, and as do all the fans out there, okay, Snyder, you decide to kill Superman at the end. Probably not the smartest idea. It depends. I mean, if you want to go by the comics, that's cool. I think it was too soon to kill a main character such as that. But, given where it takes you in your story, a sacrifice made by a hero who's being questioned, and it gets you to this point, okay, I can see where you're going with that maybe. So maybe I can deal with that. The biggest question is going to be, obviously, though, how are they going to bring back Superman? Or is Superman going to show up later in the film? That's what they're saying right about now, that, Superman will show up later on in the film. I've heard that he could have long hair. There's been pictures, it's been all posted all over the internet, over Instagram, Twitter, and whatever. They're showing pictures of Henry Cavill, in a poster, with long hair, pretty much like he all right, if you guys have ever seen the picture of, in this quick, cool trivia right now, Nicolas Cage was supposed to play Superman in The Death of Superman Lives. And it was supposed to be actually directed by Tim Burton, who directed the first two Batman movies, Batman and Batman Returns. And it fell through. It never ended up happening. However, Superman was going to have long hair, and so there's always been this picture floating around of actually Nicolas Cage. They had the Superman suit, and it had really long hair, almost down to his shoulders. And that's kind of what they did with this Henry Cavill picture. They did that, and some people put a beard on him to say, okay, so he's going to have a different look. And it's almost been confirmed to that point that he will look different. So I'm getting ahead of myself here. Here's a couple more facts about here. This runs per Collider.com. So there's something that we saw in unreleased footage that's going to be in this Ultimate Cut. They're called the Mother Boxes. There's 3 Mother Boxes, and they're going to be the MacGuffins of the movie. If you remember the clip And it's when Lex Luthor was sneaking into Zod's ship, and all of a sudden, they had that. This was the leak clip, mind you. It wasn't actually in the movie. It was released almost immediately after. So there's like this SWAT team that's like sneaking up to him in the ship, and all of a sudden you see this kind of like alien kind of character, and there's like 3 boxes. Well, those are your mother boxes, okay? Now, what is a mother box? I didn't know at first. I had to look this up. A mother box is a transportational device which creates a boom tube between universes. So can kind of transport you from one place to another. Nerds probably going to hate me for this, but that's, in a sense, that's what it is. Taken right out of the comics, obviously. The movie will start with an explanation of the mother boxes. Now, this is another spoiler alert I am going to sound, because we've actually have an idea of how they're going to do this. So, spoiler alert, you've been warned about the prologue. Okay. The producers have promised a mind-blowing prologue for the Justice League. At this time, they consist of 3 different empires, that of Amazons, the all-female tribe of warriors, the Atletans, at this time building a gleaming civilization above water, and that of mankind beginning its march towards the world that we know. Now, according to previous rumors, the event that has brought these 3 people together is an assault upon the Earth by Darkseid himself. It's unknown exactly how Darkseid's forces were beaten by, but perhaps with the old gods still fighting on humanity's behalf, it was enough to turn the tide. What we know from the actual producers is that the old gods, notably Zeus and the Amazons, determined that the mysterious cosmic relics left behind these invaders must be divided and entrusted to each faction. Relics that to DC Comics fans are best known as mother boxes. So once again, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, it was always teased about, we actually see General Steppenwolf, and he's holding these mother boxes, or they're kind of floating around, and these are the 3 mother boxes of Earth. One is from mankind, one is a part of Cyborg, which we also saw in Batman v Superman, and the other one is from Themyscira, Wonder Woman. One is from Atlantis, Aquaman. And I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Nerds, you can send your hate mail at batmanvsbond@gmail.com. Anyway, so for you comic book fans out there, a lot of references are obviously being made to the New Gods and Jack Kirby. Obviously, I don't know a lot about that, and I do apologize. I never really read the comics when I was growing up. I always watched the cartoons, and I always watched the movies. That's why I have my knowledge to base on. So I'll make sure I do more research about this, because I'm really interested in this. I'm really looking forward to this. This is obviously, all new to me, probably a lot, all new to some of you too, just like the casual moviegoer. They're probably not going to know about this. So at least I know I'm not alone in this boat. For you, you diehard fans out there, I'm sure you're probably, well, how do I say this? You're pretty excited right about now, and as you should be. Now I'm going to get you even more excited, because there's even more news that came out of the set visit. The bloggers and press ended up having an interview with Ben Affleck and Zack Snyder. So when on the set, Affleck and director Snyder were interviewed, and they talked about the events from Batman v Superman and how it changed Batman. Snyder specifically spoke about the arc and how he and Affleck hashed out for the character. I talked to Ben about it, of like, how can we not be stuck with the single note Batman for whatever, if it's 3 movies because he's making his Batman movie, like what do we do? And we talked long and hard about, like, okay, in Batman v Superman, he's here. He's at the end of his career, and he's down here, and he's seen this thing that now he wonders what his relevance is. And maybe he can do this one thing. And then the example of Superman makes him go, no, you know what? I'm not done. I've got to do more. I've got to persevere and make it right. And that's the Batman you get to at the beginning of the Justice League, is that he's on a mission, and he's really clear-headed about the mission and about the others that he'll need to complete it. So as the interview went on, they also talked about in terms of actually putting together the superheroes, and Batman basically doing, he's the leader of the Justice League now. And obviously a lot of nerds aren't going to be liking that, because they might say, oh, well, it should be Superman. Well, Superman technically is not alive at this point, so you get Batman. And as a Batman fan, I'm like, yes. But anyway, let me go on here. So they were quoted saying, that's sort of interesting about this Batman is that on one hand, he's sort of the ultimate loner, but on the other hand, he's sort of tasked with putting this group together. So is the guy who basically broods in a cave all day really the best person to put together a team of superheroes? And he doesn't have huge success initially. He rubs some people the wrong way, or they rub him the wrong way. He's got to figure out how to play well with others. He barely knows how to play well with Alfred. Affleck also was kind of saying how this Batman's going to be not as dark, obviously, as the Batman in Batman v Superman was, because that's probably the darkest Batman we've ever seen on screen. He ended up saying this. There's a bit more sardonic humor and a little bit more irony. He's a little bit more man on a mission this time, as opposed to like he was so full of anger because of what happened to Black Zero at the Black Zero event. The kind of character that sort of rage that possessed him now. Now he's on a mission to get this group together, to constitute this league, but more of his, that sort of Bruce Wayne, wry, ironic gallows humor comes out. He's not like a ha-ha jokey, but that sort of stuff comes out a little bit. A bit of his sort of darker humor stuff is present. Or better wise put, I'm not so getting too old for this shit, it's more like I need help with this shit. So I already like the news that I'm hearing already. Let's face it, going back to Batman v Superman, we'll make the comparisons all day versus other Batman iterations that we've seen. We've seen Batman, be dark in the Keaton versions, and, he can still have some, he had his, like, laughs in there almost. It's not like, we don't need a Batman to make jokes all the time, because we've seen what happens down that road. It falls into the category of Batman and Robin and, freeze, the heat is on, that kind of stuff. And, if you go too dark, then, then you're obviously going to get what you got in Batman v Superman, and that's not going to please everybody either. So, then you're going to have a Batman killing people, there's no jokes, and, it's too serious of a tone, and not everybody's going to get it. And, to that, it seems like they're trying to find a happy median for Batman, saying, okay, well, this is, like I said before, the reactions that they had with, Batman v Superman, it seems like they're taking this criticism. Yeah, it is criticism. They're listening to the fans, they're listening to the critics and saying, okay, this wasn't working for you guys. All we want, as a fan, this is what I want to see, okay? I want to see my favorite superheroes on there. Of course, my favorite superhero is Batman. I do like Superman. I really like Wonder Woman. Now that I'm watching The Flash now, I'm, really into The Flash, so I can't wait to see what they're going to be like on the big screen. Cyborg, I know nothing about. Aquaman, I only know about from Entourage, because that was the only mention of Aquaman I had ever heard. Pretty much, he's Spider-Man underwater. Once again, send your hate mail, batmanvsbond@gmail.com. Now, to see just all these heroes together, though, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I don't want to see such a serious movie where, it's just taken, okay, all right, well, this is what we're going to do, and I'm Batman, and no humor, and whatever kind of crap, because we want to take ourselves seriously. It's like, I don't need all that. I want to be entertained when I go into a movie. I want to enjoy it. If they want to have, them have some kind of funny banter, and if they want to have the sarcastic humor, which I'm definitely known for, obviously, then that's great. I don't need jokes in every single line of the movie, but just throw in the humor in there. And I know they know how to do this, especially Ben Affleck. If you watch his movies, if you watch Argo, beep yourself, all that kind of humor. The Town, all that, the humor, he had humor in there. And believe me, those were darker movies, but he still found a way. Obviously, Affleck, as an executive producer now, is going to have more of a hand. We'll talk about that in a minute. Famous line, I know. So, Affleck went on to say that we'll see more of the detective aspect of Batman. I'm loving this too. It's definitely the world's greatest detective aspect of Batman is more present in this story than it was in the last one, and will probably be expanded upon further in the Batman movie that I would do. I think all the great Batman stories are, at their heart, detective stories. That's why they feel like noir movies in a way. Somehow feels like it could be the Maltese Falcon, but at their heart, good Batman stories are, like I said, detective stories. With these detective stories, there's what's happening element, but there's also a how do I find these people and bring them together? How are we going to work together successfully? Sort of multi-cherished element. Affleck also went on in this interview and he was talking about, okay, well, what I was talking about, how Batman killing people really pissed a lot of people off. And, he even answered this saying that, in the last movie, Batman definitely went to a very dark place that was rooted in trauma that occurred to people that he loved and worked with and what he saw. This movie is not about that issue for him so much anymore. He's no longer sort of extreme in that way. From the experiences of the last movie, he's sort of learned, and now he's sort of, I'm trying to say it without giving any spoilers, but he's wanting to redeem himself and wanting mankind to be redeemed, and he's wanting to make the world better, having learned lessons that were important in the last movie. So, like I said, obviously what happened to Superman, with the whole Martha deal and so forth, and Superman dying, it feels like almost that, Batman feels responsible for it in a way, to the point where he knows the sacrifice that Superman made. Now he wants to honor him. He gathers the metahumans together. He is obviously out of his league. That's why he has to call in for help. He doesn't like calling in for help because he is Batman, because I'm Batman. And Batman doesn't, Batman is the loner, and that's what, to me, has always made him Batman. But hey, in this case, when you have aliens and all this kind of metahuman stuff, yeah, you got to call on your friends, and, it's time to phone some friends, the superhero friends, that is. So even producer Deborah Snyder, she acknowledged that the audience didn't want their superheroes deconstructed. Obviously, I think what she's talking about, it's kind of like a nonchalant way of saying, okay, well, we didn't expect this, but, yeah, well, okay, we're taking it under advisement, and we see, and obviously I take that as a couple things. One, you have a studio breathing down your neck because you guys didn't deliver, maybe not what you had promised, but we took a gamble here, and it didn't really work out in our favor as much as we wanted. So now we need to lighten the tone. Sometimes we need to listen to the fans and critics, while I might not always agree with that. Sometimes I guess maybe it is good because at the end of the day, we are the ones that are paying our admission. I mean, and it's not getting any cheaper too. I mean, I'm picky about the movies I go to see, and I don't know if you guys are, but if I'm going to go see a movie, I'm saving my money, and I'm saving my money for my paycheck, then I know that I want to go see something that really looks good and really is going to entertain me. And I was skeptical when I saw all the bad reviews of Batman v Superman, and we live in a world now where you have the Rotten Tomatoes, you have whatever movie blogger websites, they post out their early reviews. And if you're like me, I read those reviews. I try to make my own review. I truly do, but it doesn't get me as excited. And to normal average Joe out there who, just wants to go catch a flick over the weekend, then they're like, oh, well, this isn't getting good reviews. Maybe we shouldn't see this. And I think that's partially what happened with Batman v Superman. I truly do. And the fact that, some people didn't get, why was Batman fighting Superman? And we know that. I mean, we've seen it in the cartoons, we've seen it in the, comics, but, not everybody sees that. It's like, well, why would our, the two best, I'm sorry, I'm being biased here. Why would two superheroes, one of the bigger superheroes, be fighting each other and so forth? So, it seems like Deborah Snyder is kind of like eating crow right about now, and same with Zack Snyder too. They're like, okay, well, this didn't go according to plan, and we have, like I said at the beginning of the show, damage control, and we're gonna make it better. But at the same time, they were also saying, well, this was kind of the plan. This was kind of like our Empire Strikes Back. We started off light in Man of Steel, we went down a darker path, and now we're gonna lighten it up again. So they're making the Star Wars references here, which I honestly I wouldn't make Star Wars references like that because everybody wants to say, oh, well, this movie was like our New Hope. This movie was our Empire Strikes Back. This is our Return of the Jedi. So this could be like their Return of the Jedi with Justice League. Maybe, it was, I wouldn't say Return of the Jedi was lighter, but I mean darker, but it was definitely lighter. So I don't know. I'll save that for a versus if that ever happens, where it ends up being Return of the Jedi versus Justice League. Now that would be a versus. I can't wait to do. Anyway, got to keep moving on here. A big question since Batman v Superman has obviously been, what's going to be the fate of Zack Snyder? Is he going to be able to pull off Justice League, or is he just, is he going to be more of a puppet? And, I have my theories on this. I've been saying, or at least I've been thinking anyway, if I haven't said it on the show, saying, okay, well, they're keeping him on the movie because the movie started shooting about a week or two after Batman v Superman was released, and the mixed bag of reception that had. So it wouldn't look great to pull off a director, especially such as that. So, like I said, just like the Justice League, here you go, perfect analogy here. You call on Jeff Johns, and you call on Ben Affleck, and they have more of a hand in this. Chris Terrio obviously has more of a hand in this, and I think they have the team is set in place now, and now that they know, what we want, and I hate saying what we want, but or what we want more of, maybe they're taking that under advisement. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be just a laugh, ha ha ha, Batman versus Batman and Robin kind of movie. I really don't think it's going to be like that, but I think it's going to be, hey, let's have some fun with this. Let's take it from the animated, series, see what they did in there. Let's see what they've done even on the CW with their kind of crossover universe. And I only mention that is because, one, I'm a huge Arrow and Flash fan, and seeing the shared universes. I mean, I was watching the shared universes and I'm watching Arrow fight Flash and I'm like, okay, Jeff Johns is behind this. Okay, I can get down with this. I think he's, he's a executive producer and he's helped, write on the shows before too. So if he's having such a big hand in that and he's going to be having a hand in Justice League, I have faith. I truly do. So going back with Snyder, he said, yeah, I don't think so. I would say that for me, Batman v Superman, I think there's a slight misconception about the shooting anyway, about how much pressure there was on us and the pressure on the movie to perform in a certain way. From my point of view, and maybe just because I don't know how to do it another way, we make really personal movies. For me, anyway, I love the characters. I love comic books, maybe to a fault sometimes. Like, I dork out on these hardcore aspects of the comic books because I'm a grown-up and I love that part of it. I had a great time making the movie, and I don't think that Warner Brothers, when we were shooting the movie, that there was some sort of corporate mandate to get Batman v Superman in the movie. Chris Nolan and I kind of had that idea, and then it just so happened that this was a way toward Justice League, and it came along at a great time for us as the studio was moving forward with other DC titles and getting the DCU to exist. He went on talking about, more about Warner Brothers saying, but I don't think the sort of birth of Batman v Superman was some sort of corporate conspiracy to sell tickets or do so, whatever. I think it just became this great vehicle that had a lot of focus put on it because of where it ended up in the timeline, I think the studio has been amazing with me, and they are a filmmaker-driven studio. They really don't do a ton of things by committee. It's just been a great experience I've had with them as a studio. So I think the nice thing about working on Justice League is that it is an opportunity to really blow the doors off the scale and the bad guys and team building and all the stuff that I think I could justify as a big modern comic book movie, if that makes any sense. So, like I said, I don't want to go on too much more with these interviews because, well, at least that part of the interview. Anyway, Ben Affleck was, sum everything up that he was saying. He's obviously having a hand in this movie, but everybody's been speculating, especially me, about is Ben Affleck going to be kind of like the unofficial director in this movie? Because at one time it was even said that, he could be a director on this for Justice League, but I don't think that, maybe it was thrown. That's never been confirmed, though. So, at least as an executive producer, he put this to rest. He's saying, yeah, I'm an executive producer. It's because I'm directing one of the movies. So there's sort of a cross-pollination of story and characters. I don't want to give any of that stuff away, but it basically means that there are some things that might happen to my Batman that are affected by, here in the police station, Gotham City, there's a potential that something like this might exist in that story. So there you have it. Ben Affleck it's mainly because he's directing a movie. There you go. He confirmed it that he is going to be doing a standalone Batman movie. And, he also gave an update on this also saying, I think they have a date for it, although I don't know if I would necessarily be able to make that date because I don't have a script that's ready yet. So that's my timetable is that I'm not going to make a movie until there's a script that I think is good, because I've been on the end of things when you make movies when you have a script that's not good yet and it doesn't pan out. I have a script. We're still working on it. So there you have it. Once again, Ben Affleck is definitely, the script isn't finished yet. He is going to be directing the Batman solo film, whatever it's going to be called, the Batman and stuff like that. And you got to admire him because, one, he didn't come out and quite say, I'm just putting together a Batman movie and, it's going to be out soon. And, I had this badass script. He's Ben Affleck is obviously not just a director, but he's also a writer. The fact that he wants to get this right because he knows how much. I don't think it's so much about how much is riding on this. It's that, it's almost like he's a perfectionist. It's like, yeah, we have a script, but I'm not happy with it. And I really admire that. And I'm not trying to kiss Ben Affleck's ass right about now. I'm just saying that, you have to respect that, instead of taking a movie and just pushing it forward just because you have partially half a script. We've seen enough of those kind of movies, and it doesn't have to be just in the DC universe or whatever, that a lot of studios, what they'll do is they'll just start a movie and the script's not even finished. They're writing the script on set and stuff. And, it happens, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but I'd rather, and same goes for James Bond movies, I'd rather have a script that takes longer and to get it right and get it perfect, or as perfect as you possibly can get, and, it's worth the wait. So, however long it takes for this, hopefully in the next couple years or whatever, for them to start filming this, but get it right and, damn it, go for it. Do it right and do it the way you want to do it. And I know that, everybody's still not sure about Ben Affleck. Like I said, I've only seen Batman v Superman once. What I saw of him, I really enjoyed it. I think that, him doing a Ben Affleck Batman movie. How funny does that sound? Him doing his own movie, directing it and writing it with Jeff Johns, I think that, and Chris Terrio, I think that it's gold. It really is. It's gold, Jerry. And, I'm really looking forward to it. So, however long it takes for him to do it, go for it, buddy. So that is all your Justice League news up to date, up to the minute. Obviously there's all kinds of little tidbits out there, like I said, I'll keep tweeting articles as I find them and so forth, but that's the big meat and potatoes right now. Got to keep moving on here though. Really quick, David Ayer has announced that Suicide Squad is finished. Yay. He took to Twitter and he said this squad is completed, finishing final mix and coloring. Now it's off to the lab and then the world. Nothing like it out there. It is a beast. So there you have it. Also, the Suicide Squad runtime was revealed on the day of recording. It is going to be little over 2 hours and give or take 10 minutes. It was about 130 minutes, as a matter of fact. So that's about right for a movie. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, when I watch a movie, I mean, I can sit there for as long as it takes, as long as the movie keeps me entertained. But for a movie that we know a little bit about, and if this was a sequel, then usually it's kind of like tradition for a sequel to be longer. Obviously, take Man of Steel and then Batman v Superman, Dark Knight trilogy. Dark Knight was a little bit longer than Batman Begins, and Dark Knight Rises was the longest out of all of them. So, given this is the first round for this type of movie, it's just about right. 2 hours, a little over 2 hours with credits. Hey, that's perfect. Just give me something good. So, at the time of recording, it's about 39 days left to recording. Real quick, I will say this, that I will be doing, I'll give you a tease here. I'm going to be doing a little 30-day countdown for Suicide Squad of my own, and it might involve villains, and I'll leave that tease there. So, moving on here. All right, James Bond fans, I'm finally getting to you. I have not forgotten about you. There's a saying out there, what gives me the red, and, or if you don't know that saying, now you know that saying. There's some things that, that really, get to me, and so I'm reading this article, and then it's talking, what it did, just sum it up real quick. It's doing a comparison of, obviously, Jason Bourne, James Bond, and even Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise's character, and they kind of they said, okay, Ethan Hunt is whatever, he's not the typical kind of, super spy or whatever. And then it just goes into a matchup of Bourne versus James Bond, and how Bond has to rely on his gadgets and the girls, and he can be kind of sexist, and sometimes it's very formulated. However you say it always sticks to a formula. And that's not entirely true, but before I get into my little rant here, and it talks about Jason Bourne and how when Bourne came into town and came onto the big screen, how it kind of changed the spy genre in a way. And to that, I agree. It went on also saying that James Bond, is by far the coolest spy to ever hit the screen, but Jason Bourne would kick his ass, and no matter how big of a fan somebody is of either franchise, ended up being Bourne would win, and all kinds of stuff. So, to that I say, okay, and I even tweeted this and I posted this, whatever, on social media. I said, okay, you are sadly mistaken, guys. Nobody does it better. As a Bond fan, okay, and I know we have a lot of diehard Bond fans in the audience, and just, in general, there's a lot of diehard Bond fans. I mean, we know my father definitely was. I don't know about my grandfather. He enjoyed them. Sometimes he always said that, it's too out there. It's, too far-fetched. But at the same time, I could make that argument, and I know all of us could make this argument saying, okay, but that's the great thing about going into a James Bond movie. We always know that, while if you look at the Timothy Dalton movies, you look at the Daniel Craig franchise, it's more not down to earth, but it's more kind of realistic. Okay, well, we'll kind of tone it down a little bit. We're not going to make it too sci-fi and too campy and so forth. We're dealing with more real characters here and so forth. And maybe is it because of Bourne? And I'm going to say it could be possibly, because James Bond has always kind of tied to a point, and that's why we had this show, because Batman can be compared to James Bond. James Bond can be compared to Batman. They've all taken little things from each other. Go watch the movies, and you'll see all the references. One day I will do nothing but an episode of here's what would happen in a James Bond movie that was kind of, I will say, kind of ripped from Batman. Batman has definitely ripped off James Bond more than enough times, too. And, Bourne at the same time could be saying, okay, well, Bourne could probably did kind of like a James Bond in a way, too. And, it really does annoy me just going back, because James Bond is, the best thing about James Bond is you watch that movie 2 hours, 2.5 hours at most or whatever, and it is an escape. It is just, I don't want to say it is kind of like a fantasy film, because it's like, okay, we have this character and we get to go on those adventures with him. We get to get, do we drink martinis? Maybe. I'm not, quite the martini guy. Maybe I'll try it again. The exotic locations. I mean, you get to travel, see these locations that some of us never will have a chance to get to, or maybe eventually we will one day. The beautiful exotic women. I mean, the women in there they're a part of the Bond formula. The cars. Okay, so he has to rely on gadgets, Aston Martins, BMWs, Lotuses, whatever. I mean, but that's what makes him him. And it's not so much about, okay, if you want to say Jason Bourne can kick James Bond's ass, that's great. Okay. But where can a Jason Bourne franchise go compared to where James Bond has? James Bond has been around for almost, I'll say about 55 years. Definitely over 50 years anyway. Bourne has been around. Bourne's a baby. Okay. He's been around since whenever the Robert Ludlum novels have been created, but he's been on screen since 2002. And I'm sorry, but he's still the new kid on the block. And with this new Jason Bourne film, I mean, we'll be talking about this, because I'll definitely be making comparisons there, because they are there already, even in the teaser. His name. Well, duh, that was back in 2006 when Daniel Craig came on screen in Casino Royale, which is pretty much his biggest, FU to the fans who didn't want him to be on there. That's why they created the song with Chris Cornell and David Arnold. You know my name. It's like, hey, you know my name. You know who I am. You know why I'm here. I am James Bond. I am the new James Bond. I'm going to be one of the greatest Bonds ever. And, for Bourne to rip that off, that's pretty much what they did. And, if you are a Jason Bourne fan, that's great. I've gone on record saying before, online also, that I do love the Bourne franchise. I truly do. But it's a different kind of spy movie. The same with the Mission Impossible movies, if we want to get into that also. But, as for James Bond is just, he's, maybe I'm so attached to the James Bond characters. I can go back and watch a James Bond film over and over and over again. Can I do that with the Bourne movie? Maybe not so much, because they obviously, is more of a serious tone. A lot of people don't like the shaky cams on there and so forth and whatever else. And, it's that one character, and okay, he's, got amnesia and he's finding his way back. With Bond, will we ever see a James Bond with amnesia? Maybe. I don't know. Possibly. I mean, if that does happen, then people are going to say, oh, well, he ripped off Bourne. Well, if he did, he did. But, still at the end, it's just that the James Bond franchise is been around for so long is because it's always found a way to readapt itself, recreate itself, and it's everlasting, or will be everlasting, and it's ever changing. And whoever the next James Bond's going to be, if Daniel Craig doesn't move on, then they find a way. And the producers and the writers, they always find a way. They'll try something new. They're always very ballsy about that. And they stick to the formula, because we've seen what happens when the producers and the writers don't follow the formula. Well, there wasn't a "my name is Bond, James Bond," and nothing like that. And there wasn't a "vodka martini, shaken not stirred." There's nothing like that. And oh well, he didn't. It wasn't a happy ending for James Bond, or there was no Q or Moneypenny, and you can't have a female M and all kinds of stuff or whatever. And just like, okay, well, they're trying something new. And I'm not trying to get off topic here, but they've done that kind of stuff. And like I said, it's been recreated so many times that, it's always going to be around. I hope that when I have kids, they're going to be able to carry on the tradition of carrying on my James Bond Blu-ray, set, and I hope they pass that on to their kids and so forth. And as for Bourne movies, I don't think. I mean, they will make another Jason Bourne franchise. They've tried, and it wasn't successful, so that's why they end up having to go back to this. And in a way, there's another one. It's perfect comparison. What happened when on Her Majesty's Secret Service, when we tried to have another James Bond, George Lazenby, and it didn't. Not everybody liked it, or they were able to get Sean Connery back. Well, they got Sean Connery back and ended up at Diamonds Are Forever. So I wonder if Jason Bourne is going to be like their Diamonds Are Forever. It's going to be like, okay, well, he's back, but where do we have to go with this? And what's the story going to be like? So I'm not going to just pick on a movie because it's not out yet. But I will say, though, to the writer of that article and to anybody who wants to, say that Jason Bourne is better than James Bond, look at the facts. Look at how long this franchise has been around. Nobody does it better. Mic drop. All right, so moving on here. Now that I got that off my chest, let's move into something a little different. Birthdays and anniversaries. Yes, it is time for birthdays and anniversaries. Once again, obviously not a lot of end of June babies here, but there are some good birthdays here. Robert Davi celebrated his birthday on June 26th. He played Sanchez in License to Kill. I might have mentioned that last week, and if I did, I'm sorry. But I went ahead on the birthdays list already, but I did want to say once again, check out License to Kill. If you want to see James Bond on revenge and James Bond, kind of unplugged, definitely go check out that movie. Robert Davi plays such an underrated, great villain in that movie. And I think he's probably one of the better Bond villains to ever be on screen. Anyway, okay. Happy birthday to Chris O'Donnell, who had a birthday also on June 26th. He played Robin in, yes, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. My thoughts on Chris O'Donnell. Okay, well, I think he played, he worked with what he had. We know what I think about the Joel Schumacher films, and if you're new to this, I'll make another Star Wars reference tonight. I consider the Joel Schumacher Batman films kind of like the pre-trilogy or the first 3 episodes of Star Wars. I consider it kind of like that, saying, okay, they're there. I might go back to them, but they didn't count in my mind, if that makes sense. But with all due respect to Chris O'Donnell and so forth, I think he did a good job as Robin. I liked what he did in there. Not knowing much about the Robin character, I mean, like I said, even before with the Justice League movie, I think Batman works. I like seeing Batman alone. Having him on screen with partner, it was like, go away, little Robin. I really don't need you. But I kind of like the aspect. They did have stuff in common, and So anyway, Soon Tek Oh celebrated a birthday on June 29th, or will celebrate a birthday on June 29th. He was Lieutenant Hip and the man with the golden gun. Happy birthday to you, sir. All right, now. It's time for the anniversaries, and speaking of which, here's an anniversary here that happened this past week. Batman and Robin. Okay, just said that I kind of like the prequels to Star Wars, and yeah, I always say if you want to watch a good comedy, and definitely go watch Batman and Robin, because I don't know if it was intended to be a comedy. It was obviously the answer to the darker tone in Batman and Robin, and just when you think they couldn't go any more kind of light-toned as they did in Batman Forever, then they went even lighter in this, and it was disappointing. I remember when I went to see this film, and like I said, I've been a Batman film fan since when I first saw Batman, which would be in like 89, 1990, and that would make me in kindergarten, so you can guess how old I am. Now, I went to go see this with one of my friends, and I got to say that I wasn't anxious to go see this Batman film. I was like, okay, well, let's go see a movie, and, what's out? And it's like, well, Batman and Robin's out. We'll go see it. Wasn't excited about it, and coming out of the movie theater, I'm like, well, okay, well, I guess that's the end of Batman. At least I have the Burton film still. I still have my Batman and Batman Forever, and technically Batman and Batman Returns, but, had George Clooney is a great actor. Let me just say that too. But what George Clooney had to work with in this was just, it's a shame because, he could have been a great Batman, a great Bruce Wayne. He definitely has that, kind of playboy, kind of like, and it's almost like in real life, the younger George Clooney is like Bruce Wayne. So I liked where they were going with that direction, but as Batman and the bat nipples and all that kind of stuff, I can't look past that. It's hard to pick out the good out of the bad out of that. And, Alicia Silverstone, you never hear from her anymore. And it's like this movie killed a lot of and I was reading an article about this the other day, how if you look at this movie really did kill a lot of careers. I mean, Chris O'Donnell, all due respect to him, but he's more on TV and he's on an NCIS spinoff. What happened to Alicia Silverstone? What happened to whatever other characters are in there? Luckily, Clooney is Clooney, so he's an Oscar-winning director, and he's an Oscar winner, so he's fine with that. But other characters in there, Schwarzenegger. Well, he's Schwarzenegger, so he doesn't always need a movie. Uma Thurman, yeah, she got away with it because, she got away with the Kill Bill movies later on. But now there is one good thing I did like about Batman and Robin that I always like to go back, and I could just watch this YouTube clip all the time. And I wish this is the direction they would have taken the film a little bit more, because they had it. They had all the elements there. Honestly, they really did. It didn't work. Anyway, it was when Alfred was kind of, he had his the disease that was, I forget exactly what that disease was, but he's kind of near the end, kind of almost like on his deathbed. George Clooney, was called out by Robin for saying, hey, you're pig-headed and it's always got to be your way, the highway. And then, he goes to talk to Alfred about this. And he's asking, am I really like this? Is it really always my way or the highway? And Alfred just makes that quote saying, well, what is Batman without this, and so forth. And it's a really touching scene because that Alfred, first of all, like I said, he was my Alfred for quite a long time because he was there all the way since the Keaton films. And I always liked what he did with that. And to see, how he lasted with that. And I was like, wow, this is the kind of rapport or just kind of like relationship that I like seeing on screen. This is what makes Batman and Alfred, just that kind of like a father-son. In this case, it was more like a great uncle, grandfather kind of son relationship. But Alfred really, truly did care for how Bruce Wayne was. But at the same time, he always did say, hey, you got to realize, you can't always have it your way, and you got to be respectful of others. And like I said, great scene. Now, another anniversary, and this goes without saying what Batman movie this is. Batman 1989. Turned 27 years old on June 23rd. I wish I could spend all night on this because I could definitely talk about this all night. I will always say the Michael Keaton or the Tim Burton Batman 1989 is still one of the best Batman movies to date. That is it, all the elements were there. We were already introduced to Batman. We got a little bit of his backstory in there. It was more of a Joker's origin story. Some folks don't like that Joker killed Batman's parents. I can deal with that. That's how I always knew the story until I ended up seeing the Dark Knight trilogy. Jack Nicholson's Joker, he set such a high bar for Joker. It was to the point where when I heard that, there another actor who's going to play, the Joker, it's like, you can't replace Jack Nicholson. He is the iconic Joker. And some people still say that he is. To me, every time I go back and watch that movie, you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I just like the sound of it. And just, all those quotes in there. Where does he get those wonderful toys? And, I love Jack Nicholson. It's probably one of my favorite Jack Nicholson movies, I think, that and The Departed. And he practically played the Joker in that movie, too. And Kim Basinger's Vicky Vale, Alexander Knox, and Commissioner Gordon, Pat Hingle. We didn't get to see as much of Commissioner Gordon in there as you do now in the films. I love what Michael Goff did with that character. I think, like I said, he still is the iconic Alfred to a point. The Batcave, the Batmobile, that Batmobile. That Batmobile, when it goes into access chemicals, let me just say that is probably one of the coolest Batmobile scenes that we've had. It's the Batmobile driving itself. The guns come right out of the hood, and it just blows through that door, drops a bomb, drives out of there. Great action sequence, and then Batman's just standing there, and then the Joker's like, "Junior Batman," yada yada yada, and just, oh, I love this. Oh man, I want to go watch this movie right now, but I can't because time is of the essence. Anyway. So definitely go check that movie out for you James Bond fans. If you haven't, you'll definitely see some James Bond elements in that, believe me. James Bond fans, the time has come, 35th anniversary. Yeah, For Your Eyes Only. How about that? Came out June 26, 1981. I went on record saying this before too, and I honestly can say, I love The Spy Who Loved Me. I really do. That's great Roger Moore. It's iconic James Bond, but I think Roger Moore's best James Bond film is For Your Eyes Only. Something about that. I don't know if I caught it when it used to be on cable all the time. Anytime that movie came on cable, I'd always be excited because this was before like I was able to get it on VHS or DVD and so forth. But I something about that movie stuck. I mean, it doesn't have like all the, it has iconic moments. Don't get me wrong. That ski sequence in there, one of the best ski sequences we've ever had in a James Bond movie. The Lotus in there, instead of, taking the Lotus like they did in The Spy Who Loved Me, and Ted said they kind of just, use it they blow it up instead. It's like, oh wow, okay, I didn't see where you're going with that. But then they create just this iconic car chase sequence in there with that yellow POS in I forget exactly what country they were in, and you guys can remind me about this. But anyway, the car sequence, it's proving that Bond doesn't always need the gadgets. Take that, Bourne. That, he can still, whatever kind of car there is or what kind of vehicle, he will still have his iconic Bond moments. The Bond girl in there, Melina. Melina is an underrated Bond girl. I know I say that all the time, underrated, because, obviously you have the Pussy Galores out there. You have Honey Riders, Vesper Lynn. With Melina, she was a really interesting Bond girl because she was out for revenge, and her parents were murdered in there, and she's, James Bond's trying to say, "Hey, Melina, stay out of this. I got this. I'm the expert here. I'm the super spy, and you're getting into something that your little crossbow is not going to be able to get you out of." But still, she was so persistent, and she was just determined to get that revenge. And just overall, I think that is just a great Bond movie. Once again, it focuses on the Cold War, Russia versus England versus, the U.S. wasn't in this one as much, if at all. But, it's all of this movie is based on something called the ATAC tracking system, and it's a submarine. It's kind of like it's like a submarine tracking system, kind of similar to The Spy Who Loved Me, but not. But at the same time, it's about Russia trying to get their hands on it, Britain's trying to recover it, and it's just, it's just that whole Cold War aspect, which I really, really enjoy, especially in the Roger Moore films, and that's the big focus on this. And if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. Moonraker came out on June 29th, 1979. We'll be celebrating an anniversary this upcoming week. I sat down and watched Moonraker when I was sick this past week, and I gotta say that I want to love Moonraker. I truly do, especially just coming off The Spy Who Loved Me and right in between For Your Eyes Only. And I can see why For Your Eyes Only did the direction that they did. They grounded James Bond a little bit more because you're shooting James Bond up into space, and you can't go way beyond that. And the Python in there, and it was getting a little campy at times, and I enjoyed it. Where it got campy is when he's in, I believe it's Paris, or I think it's France, when he's in France, and he's on that little boat in the gondola, and the motorized gondola, and then it turns into a hovercraft, and I'm like, oh, no, you just kind of crossed that line. And I know that they were trying to think bigger, and how much more bigger can you go than a Moonraker laser, and having a battle in space, in a space station. And because of Star Wars at the time, came out in 1977, Moonraker was their answer. Okay, well, what this is, once again, Bond kind of following the trend. Okay, well, let's send James Bond into space and see what happens. And it was ballsy. It was very risky. And, a lot of fans love this movie. And I can, the title song sung by Shirley Bassey, the James Bond score, once again, John Barry's back in there. You have Roger Moore. It was Bernard Lee's last appearance as M. Bond girl in there. Dr. Goodhead, I wasn't quite a fan. I don't know. I have this thing, and it's something about when an American actress plays a James Bond girl, and we'll get into this another time, but I'm just not as big a fan. I guess maybe because I like the international women. Maybe it's the actor. Maybe it's just the actresses that they picked to do this. I mean, I think We'll save that for another time anyway. But overall, Moonraker, if you want just a kind of a movie just to turn on, and just like I said, James Bond is about a fantasy world. It doesn't get much more fantasy than this. Oh, and by the way, Jaws is back. I did like seeing Jaws in there. There's nothing like seeing Jaws picking up James Bond by his neck and just throwing him all over the place and so forth. And the villain, Hugo Drax. Drax is a good villain. Now, Mr. Bond, I shall have the pleasure of putting you out of my misery. And it just, you miss Mr. Bond. Did I? And just those quotes in there. There are some good moments, and there are some good quotes, some beautiful women in there. But like I said, Moonraker, not my favorite James Bond, but definitely an enjoyable James Bond movie. So there is your anniversaries for the week. All right, moving on into the final segment of the show. Versus. This is the part of the show where we compare movies of the Batman or James Bond universes versus other franchises in the same wheelhouse. Or we try to do in the same wheelhouse anyway. But like I said, last week's versus was Batman Begins versus Man of Steel. The polls showed that Batman Begins was the big winner in there. I thought there would be at least a few votes for Man of Steel. Obviously, because this is a Batman and James Bond show, the fans spoke. Batman Begins was the dominant winner in there, or the clear winner. Like I said, I've given my thoughts on that. I love both movies, but I will give the slight edge, obviously, to Batman Begins because I'm the bigger Batman fan. And my new costume will be arriving, which I will show you guys some pictures of, which might be a Batman Begins costume. Hint, hint. Anyway, this week's versus is going to be, and I changed it last minute, so I apologize, Quantum of Solace versus the Bourne Supremacy. Yeah, I'm going there. I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time on this just because I spend so much time on news. We've already talked about the James Bond versus Jason Bourne. This fueled me even more to have that comparison. Obviously, Quantum of Solace, give you a backstory on that. This is Daniel Craig's second Bond outing. It is a revenge-driven story. It is still Bond at the beginning stages of his 00 agent experience, if you will. So after Vesper died in Casino Royale, Bond is obviously out for revenge, not just to find out the organization that, was behind all this, because he just wants to find out, who is responsible for all this. And, he's driven, he's raged, and he's angry. And this is a James Bond, just like, okay, well, I'm not worried about the martinis right now, especially I don't care who gets in my way. I'll kill, the body count's going to be stacking up even more. It's just, he obviously goes rogue in this, and I remember when the trailers were released for this, they showed the flashbacks of Vesper, and it was to the point where I love the setup for this, and it's like, okay, Judi Dench was making the quote in there, "Find Bond," and I'm like, oh, did they just do kind of a Jason Bourne thing here? And then I saw how it was cut, the dirt bike or the motorcycle kind of jumping onto the boats, all the chase sequences in this, and how it was cut. I end up going to see the movie in theaters the day it comes out, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting from the very beginning of how it started off, because they throw you right into this movie. This was probably one of the first... it was one of the first official sequels, because if you didn't watch Casino Royale, then you wouldn't understand everything that's going in Quantum of Solace. I couldn't go show this Quantum of Solace first to my wife with her understanding what happened in Casino Royale, because they're all tied together. You almost want to watch both these movies back to back, and it makes more sense. And believe me, I did that. And I was remembering stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And this is a movie you really have to pay attention to because this is coming in at just under 2 hours. I think it was maybe an hour 40, hour and 50 minutes with credits. And the biggest thing about this was that how it was edited, how it was cut. Now, normally with a Bond movie, everything's cut nice and clean and so forth. This was a lot different. It was cut as soon as even the car chase sequence, it's going from him shifting gears to, the bad guy shooting the guns on the Alfa Romeos, and then all of a sudden to the police, and then back to the Aston, and then back and forth, and then all kinds of things. And it's just like, okay, well, I had to watch this movie at least a couple times to respect it, and to not just to respect it, because I knew I missed so many things that first outing because it happens just like that. And when it finally did slow down, and this was also at a time of the writer's strike. And you could tell that too, because this movie it's a action chase movie. And, it has all the possible chase sequences that it could have. It has a car chase. It has a boat chase. It has a plane chase. It has a foot chase. It has, did I say the plane chase? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It has a plane chase in there too. I mean, it has every possible chase that you could have in there. And, in there you have a story, but you really, really have to kind of understand what's going on, because of the other events from the previous Casino Royale to understand what's going on here. And then, after watching a couple times, I'm like, oh, well, it makes more sense. And the more I watch it, the more I love it. Now, I'm not going to say it's my favorite Daniel Craig James Bond movie. I'm definitely not going to say it's not my favorite. It might not be my favorite top 10 James Bond movies, but it would definitely fall in the top 15, give or take. A lot of people won't say that. In a way, it obviously is more of a Bourne kind of James Bond movie, and this obviously was because of Bourne, was pretty big at that time. So going into Bourne Supremacy, once again, this is also a revenge kind of movie. If you haven't seen the movie, Jason Bourne was a super spy. Well, no, I don't want to say super spy. He's an assassin spy in a way. Not even a spy. He's an assassin. He was trained by the CIA. He lost his memory when he was on one of his missions. And then he's trying to put all the pieces back together. When we go back in the Bourne Supremacy, he knows what he was, but he's trying to still remember and put all the pieces back together. His girlfriend dies at the beginning of the movie. Spoiler alert. And then, he's fueled by this rage to find out he told the organization, he told the CIA to leave him alone. They didn't. He's being set up at the same time. And, he's going back to try and get the people who did this to him. And, like I said, once again, revenge story with a Bourne movie. It's very choppy also. It's the shaky cam. I liked it. That this was actually, this is what I say about seeing a movie out of order, because I saw the Bourne Supremacy before I saw the Bourne Identity, which made it even harder for me to follow. But then when I saw them, then I'm like, okay, this is what's going on and so forth. So you got to make sure that you see them together. But, I can definitely see elements of James Bond in there. Overall, like I said, if it's going to be, this is going to be the biggest one, obviously, because I was had such a rant about James Bond versus Bourne. I like both these movies. I truly do. Because I'm a James Bond fan, I'm definitely obviously going to side with Quantum of Solace, because I connected more with, or I saw that connection with how would James Bond react with, with the death of Vesper, the one that he loved. Bourne, it was the same way, but I don't know if we had that. I don't know if I had that, connection or just kind of those feelings like I did, because I guess I was such a bigger fan of Casino Royale and all the events that took place in there. Just the love story that they had built up at Casino Royale, and all of a sudden Vesper betrayed him, and Bond is just trying to get all these answers. With Bourne, it was slightly different, and like I said, let me know which one you pick. I know which one I'm going to pick. I'll definitely post this on social media, and we'll let you know next week who ends up being the clear winner. So that about wraps it up for this very extended episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. I survived. I still have my voice intact. Maybe it's a little high-pitched. I can't tell right about now, but I can't wait to hear it. Anyway, please subscribe on iTunes and or Spreaker. Make sure that you rate this show and leave a comment for me. 5-star review, guys. 5-star, 5 martinis, 5 bat signals. Let me know how I'm doing. I appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Batman vs. Bond, and be sure to like the Batman vs. James Bond Facebook page. if you're interested in being a guest on the show, please direct message me and we can set something up. Programming note here. Yes, programming note, attention, announcements. I will be doing a big Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition Dawn of Justice review. It will be out next week because it is 4th of July weekend. I'm probably going to just put that out there for you guys. It's going to be, obviously, it's very spoiler heavy, so stay tuned for that. After that, then we'll be back to, the good old stuff, verses and so forth. So it is going to be an all Batman v Superman, unless I change my mind about that, but I just want to make sure that I get that review out there. Anyway, so stay tuned for that. So, like James Bond, I will return. Thank you for listening, and until next time, peace out. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye.